it wasn't about that for us. It was about people, it was about experiences, and it was about learning about ourselves. And what monogamy does is puts a big stake in the middle of that learning. And it says, stop right there. What you've got is what you've got. You might want to harness a bit more of it with your partner, but right, that's it. You've reached, you're an adult, grown sexual human being now. Stop.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy approach to non-monogamy. However, it's important to remember that everyone does it a little bit differently, and the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware that we aren't doctors or therapists. Consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 299. Guess what? We got one more.
One more
to episode 300.
Also, no pressure to anybody maybe writing new music for episode 300. But we're running out of time.
Wow, way to ruin the surprise. There may or may not be new music on episode 300. We will see. But if
there's not on episode 300, maybe 301, maybe 302.
We don't know. It's just going to be a surprise.
It's going to be a surprise and really important work on me not being a perfectionist.
Yeah, true. And you ruined the surprise of what, that there might be new music, but you didn't ruin the full surprise because they don't know when.
That's true.
So it's half ruined? I don't know.
So are you calling me a ruiner?
No, I don't know.
You're just calling me a half ruiner.
Yeah, half ruiner. That's what I'm calling you, half ruiner.
You call me Rue?
Anyway, we're Emma and Finn. I never actually said that in the front.
That was an Australian joke.
This intro's off the rails already. We haven't even gotten to this week's guest.
Well, first of all, we're Emma and Finn.
I said that. Today, we have a lovely conversation with Nikki and Michael. They've been together 27 years, exploring non-monogamy the last 2 to 3 years, and we just talk through a lot of amazing topics with them.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things about this conversation is just sort of how honest they both are about some of the challenges they came up against in exploring this. And they weren't necessarily the typical ones that we often hear around maybe jealousy or sort of internal, sort of relational challenges. They were more around figuring out how they fit in and who they were and really untangling what their upbringing was and how that has impacted who they are and just the work and I would say even some of the challenge that goes into doing something like non-monogamy and how it's not always just easy and glitz and glamour and all of that. And so I'm really grateful to both of them for how they approach it all and how they approach the conversation and shared with us.
Yes, we're incredibly grateful for this conversation, and thank you, Nikki and Michael, for coming on. As they will also talk further about in the episode, they have both been in the performing arts world, theater world, for over 30 years, and they've combined that experience with their experience in non-monogamy to create a live play that is called Compersion, and this is an interactive play. We're super excited about this. We wish we lived in Australia so we could go, but they are looking to bring it elsewhere as well. So again, they will talk about this all in the episode, but we wanted to just mention it up front, and links to check it out are in the show notes.
And if you happen to be in the Melbourne area, and actually the next couple of weeks, they're actually running shows in the beginning of August in Melbourne.
Yes.
So please definitely check out those links. And if you check out the show, let them know we sent you. It doesn't do anything for us other than it boosts our ego.
And reach out to us and let us know how you liked it.
That's what I was going to say.
Well, I stole your words.
You stole it. You're a thief. So please check out all of their amazing work. And with that, we are going to jump into the interview with Nikki and Michael. If you happen to be a premium subscriber, and if you don't, well, you get to listen to us for a little bit longer.
So first up, if you're not familiar with the premium subscription, it's a way to skip these announcements up front, jump right into the interview, but don't worry, you still get important dates in the outro. To sign up for as little as a couple bucks a year, just go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and scroll down on the homepage and you'll find it all right there.
And speaking of important dates, today is an important date.
It is August 2nd.
August 2nd, we have an event tonight, a virtual event. If you remember a few months back in April, we ran a live workshop at Southwest Love Fest, and we called that workshop, Is There a Right Way to Do Non-Monogamy?, where we basically broke down and debunked a whole bunch of myths around non-monogamy, and we put people in small breakout groups, and it was really an interactive community building and sort of demystifying, debunking myths of non-monogamy and what that looks like.
It was super fun.
It was amazing. And we have the opportunity now to take this and make it a virtual event. And that's what we're doing tonight from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Pacific or 9 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern. And we are partnering with Bloom, the Bloom community app, which you've probably heard us talking about as well, to put this on. So we're super grateful to their sort of educational series that they're putting on and for inviting us to present this workshop.
Yes. And if you join the workshop, you'll get the opportunity to get into little groups and meet a lot of people as well. So we would love to have you join us for the workshop tonight. That's August 2nd, 2023. To sign up, go to the links in the show notes and you'll find all of the sign up links there.
Yeah, so those links will be in your podcast player down below or at our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the podcast tab and you will actually see a list of all of our podcast episodes, including today's, and you can click in there and you'll find the links.
While you're over there on our website, you can go to the community tab. We would love for you to check out the community. We have so many amazing people supporting each other every single day in our online community. We're incredibly grateful to each and every one of you and would love for more of you to check it out as well. It's $5 a month to join. You get an online support, plus you get monthly Q&As. We have a monthly men's group call and a monthly women's group call, all for $5 a month.
Yeah. And we are also rolling out some additional weekly support groups. We've been doing a few of these since October, and we're expanding that. So those are sort of part of the community, but they're in addition to the community. They're an intense version of the community. How about that?
More intimate.
More intimate. So you will still be part of the community, but you'll have some additional support as well.
All of the information is under the weekly groups tab under community on our website.
Yep. So basically the summation is go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. You can find all of that information as well as how to sign up for the workshop tonight.
Next up, also while you're on our website, don't forget to check out stdcheck.com, our favorite way to get tested for STIs. It is quick, simple, efficient, discreet
and
affordable. I'm trying to think of other descriptive words.
Yeah, if you use the links on our website, you save $10, which brings the cost of a 10-panel test down to $129, and it helps support the show financially. So we just want to say thank you in advance to all of you who do that.
And with that,
hold on, you find those links.
Oh, yeah.
You go over to the resources tab on our website, or again, in your podcast player show note at the bottom, there are direct links. It will take you right there. And this is a great resource to have in your back pocket. Perhaps you go check out the compersion play, or you come to the Challenging Non-Monogamy Myths workshop, or any of the other amazing things that we're doing. And you meet some people and you're like, oh, well, now we need to know some more information about these people, and I need to know some more information about myself. This is the best place to get that information.
That is true.
And I'm done talking now.
Thank you, everyone, for hanging in there with these announcements. We will now jump right into the interview with Nikki and Michael.
Welcome to the podcast, Nikki and Mick and Nikki. I think that'll be fun to say all day. I'm excited. And coming to us all the way around the world. We're up late. You're up while you're in the middle of the day. But welcome to the show. We're excited to meet you too and learn a bit about you.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'd love for you to start just by introducing yourself at whatever level you feel comfortable doing so.
Okay. Well, I'm Michael. I'll give you a quick CV. Actor and academic. I'm an anthropologist and work in the performing arts. Have done for 35 plus years. Yeah, we're a family with dogs and cats and birds and fish and the whole gamut. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't want to go into my full.
No, you're fine.
That works.
Wonderful. How about you, Nikki?
I'm Nikki. I work in theatre as well. Work in disability as well. have done for over 30 years. We're both specialists in what we do. And after getting into the lifestyle, we made a whole lot of jokes about how great a play it would make and getting into it and the journey. And we ended up doing it one day. So, yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, we're excited to hear more about the play and everything. But to get us started, maybe can you take us back in time? When did non-monogamy first come into your lives?
We didn't go looking for it. We didn't know what we were doing. We just kept doing it accidentally.
Yeah.
And then we one day came across the term, the lifestyle and non-monogamy and ethical non-monogamy. And after that, we went down the rabbit hole. That's about it, really.
Yeah. We've probably, I think, being in the performing arts is the old cliche of a bit of sex, drugs, and rock and roll and the lifestyle. And I think that was probably, I don't know, it wasn't our focus or anything. It was just sort of part of that lifestyle. And a few years ago, we were doing an online performance project, creative development project, and as part of doing that, we discovered Instagram and Twitter and the sort of communities that are involved there. And
not safe for work.
Yeah, the not safe for work handle. And from there, we just kind of discovered that, there's this, it's not a formality, but it's an identity that we didn't really realise was there, or what we did think was there was the cliche old images of keys in the jar type of environment. We didn't realise that there was such a broad community and so much sort of lifestyle advocacy that was a part of it as well. And from there we've just kind of we're probably 2 or 3 years into being officially out of the closet in that sense. So we're probably still fairly new and exploring it. Probably new in exploring and embracing that more as an identity. So we're still probably on that path. Which is, I guess, why we wanted to capture it as we were going.
I think everyone in the community never gets off that path, don't they? I mean, that is what you're here to.
You're always growing, always evolving, always learning.
Yeah, I love that. You had said, Nikki, that it wasn't something you went looking for, that it sort of just was, and then you just sort of kept doing it. But I'm curious, what did, to whatever level you're comfortable, what did that sort of look like? Because I think if you step back and you look at what society typically tells us is we should be monogamous. And so even something is, this accidental threesome or whatever, I have no idea what it was, but just those are often huge sort of landmarks in people's lives. But I'm curious for you two, what did it look like at the beginning, the first time that you sort of cracked open the relationship that you two built?
I wouldn't say we cracked it open the first time. It was just little steps along the way. It looked like vanilla people who haven't got control of themselves and don't know what they're doing and get in a hot tub when they're drunk. That's what it looked like. I'm going to be really honest here. It wasn't romantic or it wasn't even sexy, to be honest. It was quite revolting and gross. It's like, and kind of cool as well because it wasn't bad. And those little kiss here, this here, a bit of play there, just didn't seem to be breaking the vessel of our relationship or anything. And so, it looked like accidental, not even accidental, just incidental is the right word, incidental moments.
But we probably,
and hand in hand with that was loads of discussion and questioning. And what finding this community helped us with wasn't figuring out how to have sex. It wasn't figuring out how to be a human being that is sexual. It was about figuring out what the far out had happened to us growing up and undoing it. really, after the discussions, during all the discussions. It's not. Look, I think the lifestyle is sold as way too romantic and ridiculously over the top with its glamour and its all the rest of it, and quite earnestly, like it. That's not healthy. That is not really healthy. It's not healthy for anyone. And so for me, it's, like I know a lot of people get into it because of the glamour and the taboo and all those other things, but it wasn't about that for us. It was about people, it was about experiences, and it was about learning about ourselves. And what monogamy does is puts a big stake in the middle of that learning. And it says, stop right there. What you've got is what you've got. You might want to harness a bit more of it with your partner, but right, that's it. You've reached, you're an adult, grown sexual human being now. Stop. And and I think that's the bit that this community and the lifestyle actually helped us to work through. And still, obviously, because we're human beings and we keep growing and we keep learning and we keep messing up and having experiences that that's really what we got out of it. For a little while there, I was very smitten with the whole glamour, and the community sells itself as very glamorous, but it's actually not like that at all most of the time. Not at parties, not at events, not at anywhere. And so I think that when I first got into it as a lifestyle thing, I was expecting to receive all these glorious, glamorous moments and fantasies and all the rest of it in those packages, the way it's presented to me online, and it doesn't happen that way at all. So I think that I did get let down in terms of being spoon-fed this information that I should be making love to big bulls and who are wonderful and who will travel across the world for me, and because that's what is being pumped out there. And that may be a component for some people, and wahoo, what a life, great work. But it's but after falling in love with all that fantasy and glamour, I started to realize that that wasn't what we're engaged in at all. It actually wasn't what we're engaged in at all. It wasn't what we had been engaging in previously.
I think for there was probably a part of it too that was in those early fumbling around experiences.
It's a good word, fumbling around.
We would talk afterwards, and we might catch up or cross paths with the people we'd been with that previous time, and I don't know, they seemed so. They seemed maybe ashamed, or they seemed like
they have no memory of it.
They had no memory of it. They'd forgotten it. They'd kind of, and everything was all. It was all dirty and underground, and this sort of feeling,
like shameful.
There was shame in practicing, and I think probably the biggest maybe revelation we had is when we found the community. Was that aspect of it wasn't there. It was an embraced identity, and I think that was very new for us. That you could embrace this identity. That you could actually own it, rather than just go, oh, well, we don't talk about that.
Right.
And, that kind of thing.
But embracing that identity doesn't just happen. Right, well, that's my label now, and I'm just going to go and live. It's not.
Yeah, one day I got it. I'm just going to flip the switch.
And I'm going to be just on, and it doesn't happen like that. It's every experience teaches you something about yourself, about each other, and about
how you've been shaped.
Yeah, how you've been
formed and shaped. We talk about it. Well, I know we'll get back to it, but we do talk about it in terms of like sexual identity math. That there was this calculation, there was this formula put together
before you're even aware of it.
Yeah, when you're young, and you can't blame anyone. You're being raised by a community that's working to what they understand as well. But you do kind of get to a point where you sort of stop and go, well, hang on a minute, how did that way of thinking get into my head
as being an actual truth. How did that construct form?
And why am I feeling elements of shame or embarrassment or whatever about something that is not?
Yeah.
Like where does that pressure come from?
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting, sort of what I took away from some of what you were saying, Nikki, and both of you, but one of the things you said, Nikki, was around this living this way, exploring non-monogamy isn't about the glamour. It's not about, how many sexy parties and how many sexy things I can do. It's been a lot about
notches on my belt.
Yeah, notches on your belt, exactly. But it's been about the sort of the personal growth, and it sounds like it almost seems like you showed up in a space almost with a different agenda than everybody. You were sort of on this self-awareness, self-growth path versus the let's party it up like it's a MTV Spring Break episode.
I think there's more people in the community that are embracing that in that way. I think it's just a little bit, it's not as publicized, maybe.
No.
Yeah.
No. But I think, sorry, I think also a bit of backgrounding and context helps too. That I was actually raised in a dance company. And so, aesthetics, beauty, perfection, flesh, pleasure, fantasy is everything I grew up on. So anything to do with sex and sexuality, you would have to work real hard to surprise me or shock me. Totally opposite from Michael's upbringing, which was like he was raised not in the 50s, but he was raised as if he was in the 1950s, and with a family that are all very taboo. Don't talk about we don't even talk about how we feel, right? We just go into our room and we do something, we just shut ourselves down. Or
we didn't have open displays of affection in my house, like just even between parents. There's no hugging or kissing, just that kind of affection. So
that the sex wasn't actually taboo for me. It was like, wow, here it is. I knew it. I knew I wasn't crazy. But what it did to my own, what it did for my own self-confidence was great at first. And then it kind of just, everything died. I had no desire, no interest, lost my mojo. It's like when you do something naughty often, or something a little bit, and it's your little secret and it's your little thing, and then you take all that away and you go do it openly, you do it earnestly, you talk about it, you share it, you have nothing left to hide, literally, anymore. It actually kind of killed it all for me, because it was just because the sex itself isn't actually like wow for me. Don't get me wrong, I love sex, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But watching people do it, seeing people do it, seeing someone naked really doesn't even raise an eyebrow for me. Partly because we are in it all the time and we work in it all the time, but also that there's this thing that no one tells you about when you once you go into the lifestyle. It's all very exciting, then it's very traumatic, it's very up, it's very down, it's very working on myself, working on you, helping me. And then you kind of hit this place where you go, oh God, it's hard. And it's almost boring now. I'm so tired of looking for people. I'm so tired of talking to people on dating sites. I'm so bored of the conversation that most of them offer. I'm so and I don't know where to go and get my kicks, so to speak. Now, I went through. We both kind of hit that wall. I think we both did. Where we were just
this is after, in the last few years. Just to clarify.
Yeah, so I think for the first couple of years, it was just lots of learning and growing and expanding. And then you get to this point where you've been working for a long time on yourself, right? You've been working, you've had some great experiences, you've made some really good friends, better friends than we've had in any other part of our life. And it's all a bit boring. Do you know what I mean? I'm just, I watch other people look at porn and I watch how excited it makes them, and I'm like, oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
I don't get that
It's
anymore.
once you know how the film's made, the filmmaking process gets in the way of you enjoying the film. Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
and that's where that's probably when we did start to recognise that it's also relationships and friendships and connection, and just being able to partake in the world in your way, however that works for you, without judgment, without scrutiny, without shame, is really the beautiful thing that comes out of it. That that the other stuff is beautiful, natural, but actually kind of secondary. Yeah. I'm not going to meet you and, like, if we've been hanging out for quite a while, I'm not going to jump you the minute I see you. I'm going to want to know how you are. I want to have a coffee. I want to, you know, and so, yeah, it does change. It's like when you fall in love the first time and it's just so wow. And then after X amount of time, you've settled into it. And there's still lots of wow about it, but it's not that puppy kind of energy anymore. Yeah.
Anyway. It's like not maturing sounds wanky, but
I'll never mature. Don't say that.
But it is. I think it is a bit of a difference between sort of going to the candy shop and just sort of having all the candy and just kind of going, well, it's not just about going out and doing that experience. It's about incorporating the lifestyle into your identity, and that makes it. I think you mentioned earlier, Emma, the idea of the switch. You know, it's not so much of a switch on and off. It's like, okay, it's Monday, it's 9 o'clock. I switch back into my vanilla mode, and and now it's Friday and it's 8 o'clock, and I switch into this mode. It's like we're probably, and it's who we are anyway. We'd rather just incorporate this aspect into our broader lifestyle anyway, with people that we know, we spend time with, and it just broadens that capacity to spend time with people, I guess. Yeah.
And as much as there's hard stuff about it, we really have. Within the first year of being in the lifestyle, we pretty much disassociated from everyone that we've ever hung out, all of our vanilla friends. You really started. We realized that that there was a huge difference between the pools of friends, and even though we hadn't been with these people in the lifestyle for even a year at this stage, when things got bad for us and when we were facing struggles, not one of our previous 20, 30 years of friendship friends turned up. And every single person that we had only had these intimate fleeting times with, you know, because you don't sort of often get to spend a whole day or a whole, you know, they were there. They were there straight away. It was profound, and it really made us, it really helped us to sit up and look at, well, hang on. Are we happy with this setup? Are we happy in this way of being surrounded by this way of thinking and dealing with life? And do we want to make some changes? And so having said that, you know, it's hard work, it's also been extraordinarily rewarding and enough to make us change so much about how we live. And which is who we choose to live with.
which is sort of the question I was going to ask maybe at this point was, and it's not a challenge in any way because so much of what you said is very relatable, but the sort of the question of just if it's been hard and you even, like you sort of said, your first experience almost had an element of being gross in a way, but here you are 4 or 5 years later, and seemingly even more years later from the unofficial start, right? Whatever we want to call that, you're still doing it, and you're now making a play about it, and you're talking about it on a podcast. So what are the pieces maybe for each of you that really keeps you coming back for more?
And I want to just for context too, I realized that we didn't actually say like, how long have you two been together? And
I was going to say that, yeah. We've been together. This is our 20-year anniversary this year. Mm.
Yeah, so quite some time. I just wanted that the listeners to have that context.
And I think since we were kids as well. So
I think what we have really discovered with the communities of people that we've met is that couples that go into it straight away are just phenomenal. Couples that have been like this for 20 years and then give it a go have work to do, personally and together. It's not going to be for most of you. And like for those lucky dogs that actually do just go, I can swim here and like, woo, we got no problems. That's awesome. But the great majority of us have baggage and stuff. And and you know what's going to bring it all out? This.
Yeah, right. Opening a relationship of any sort.
So I think, well, like I said, that first couple of times we discovered, the club scene and the sort of community. I think it was a breath of fresh air to just be in a space that was that shame free and that open. There was no age I mean, there's all sorts of ages. There's all sorts of body types. There's all sorts of physical ability or disability. I mean, it's just a space where, for me anyway, that was really eye-opening. Being in a space where none of those sort of social sort of barriers and frameworks and rules of engagement, they were all just kind of dropped away, and the thing that was left was this idea of the modern interpretation of what consent is, which is much more dynamic, much more empowering for individuals, and gives you a sense of agency that I'd never really experienced. And
made us realise that we had no idea how to operate this consent thing because our generation missed a lot of that.
Yeah, missed a lot of that.
We got the message, we just didn't have to practice it, you know?
And just that whole, we learn so many social ways of being at work, with our friends, with our family, at church or at sport or whatever, but we never learn to be socially, sexually active people. That thing is missing. So I think that really was a bit of a eye opener for me when I walked into the club, and I think that's also where we kept reading and we discovered this word compersion, which we just both really resonated with. Because it sort of, we say it in the play again, like, have you ever had a feeling for the very first time? Like, when's the last time you had a feeling for the very first time? And are you able to articulate it? And if you don't have a word for it, we all know what jealousy is. We all know what envy is. I mean, those things they're in literature, they're in film, they're everywhere. They're driving elements in about every forlorn love song that there is. But there was this new word and this new idea, and that was exciting too. That you could actually engage with that. It could be something that you could sort of go, yes, I know what that is. It's not just this amorphous kind of feeling out there,
right? Well, and what's really interesting about compersion specifically, which for anybody listening who's not familiar with the word, typically it gets described a few different ways. Sometimes the opposite of jealousy, but also just the joy in seeing and really experiencing somebody else's joy. So it could be around sex, or it could just be around anything. But, seeing Emma really enjoy eating a piece of cake and that makes me happy, that could be compersive, right? And so
yeah,
absolutely.
I think what's really interesting about it, though, is especially if it comes to sex, what we're taught is if you watch your partner have sex with somebody, you will be jealous. And there's so many people we talk to that they're like, well, I thought that was going to be really hard. And then I didn't know what was happening, but I really enjoyed it and I really liked it and I can't get enough of it. But nobody prepares you that is an option, that is a thing you could
Well,
feel.
you're not presented as even being a potential.
Yeah, it's not even on the table as an option.
That's not taught to us. Haven't you read fairy tales?
Yeah.
And I think the other on the flip scale, that we don't even consider that to be an option. It's just not given to us. But and on the flip side, in the lifestyle, there's a lot of talk about compersion. There's a lot of talk about having to achieve it as well. And you know, like, I'm a huge advocate of stopping that. Like, compersion is a beautiful thing. It can be applied absolutely anywhere. And telling someone, like, you've just been programmed. And this will get better. It will feel freaking horrible, but it will get better because it's just programming. And so telling people that they have to and they must comply to it and they have to find it when they're struggling to, because all they've ever known is the opposite and they've never been shown this. But it's just, that's heartbreaking for me. It's really, I think
it's a learning process.
You're allowed to be a human being.
You've got to understand it. Yeah. I mean, there have been occasions where we've seen the word almost weaponized. Oh, well, you can't be in the lifestyle. Well,
yes, that's what I'm saying. Some people get quite vicious with it, you know, that you have to have.
Which seems to be the antithesis of what the learning means.
We're not saints. We're working really hard at being better people, generally, but we are none of us saints, you know. We all have to bear our own little crosses and work through our own boundaries, problems, behaviours. I just really, I love that word. I love the idea of it, but I feel like it can be weaponized sometimes. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that, and that is one of the things that we've had a few people on the show who talk about this, and one of them that stood out for me was an interview we did with somebody named Avita, and she talks about how she's like, you know, everybody thinks compersion is the holy grail and you have to get there, but you know where you might land is that you're just indifferent. Your partner went out on a date and had a great time, and you didn't cry. And that's a win, right? That can be where you're at in your journey. You may never get to the place where you're throwing a party and having a dance when your partner goes out and does that. That might never be you, and that's okay.
And hey, the fact that you're willing to be so uncomfortable for the happiness of someone else, that you're willing to work through that uncomfortable stuff to be a happier person in yourself and for the happiness of someone else. You're already, man, you deserve a medal already. Don't worry about the compersions. It will come, you know, like, or it might not. But what you're doing is profound already, you know.
Yeah, there's so much work there.
I love that.
And it's like I say, it's work to learn something that we've never been taught. But part of that learning something new is unpicking and untangling all the stuff you have been taught.
And sometimes that can feel like grief.
Yeah, that's a good.
You don't realize how attached you got to this ridiculous concept, you know, and
yeah. Well, something else you said in there that I just wanted to pick at, and then I will stop talking. And
you're fine.
Okay. Was around. You had said, like, we aren't taught to be socially sexual, right? Or that's not, we learn to go to church and go to work and do all these things. And you even threw out, right, like, we missed the boat on consent. But I think so many of those are actually wrapped up together in that some of the things, or many of the tools that I think I've learned through non-monogamy, through, you know, sure, some of these sexual situations or just more complicated relationship dynamics have made it so I can show up at those other places in a different way, that I think even the way that we're conditioned to show up at work, at school, at church, they're not exactly great. There's not a whole lot of consent.
Very competitive.
There's not a whole lot of concern. Like, when was the last time you walked into your coworker's office and said, hey, how do you like to receive hard information? How do you like to have challenging conversations? Is this a good time for you to talk? Right? Some of these ways that we have really hard relationship conversations, imagine if you did that at work. The change that you could have in the way that you might have a conversation. That coworker that always gets pissed at you, maybe it's because the way you barge into their office and start drilling them, that's not good for them. And they could use a totally different way if you had a conversation. And so I see so many of these tools map.
Yeah. And one of those, like you say it really well, because part of this process is learning to communicate. Well, it's the bedrock of this, isn't it? It's communication.
Yes.
Learning how to communicate and learning to, I say it to kids all the time, like conversation is a two-way street. Yes, you get to talk, but you've also got to listen. And it's in the listening that an actor friend I worked with once said listening was actually possibly one of the most vulnerable things you can do. When you're really listening, you're really just absorbing the experience of the other person and letting that affect you, and really listening and letting that affect you before you come back to them. It's actually quite a vulnerable place to be. And I think, I don't know, maybe it's a modern ill, maybe it's just an eternal ill, but, I don't find most people listen. I just find most people are waiting for the gap in you breathing so they can just jump in with their 2 cents worth. But I think, the bedrock of this is communication. And you're right, when you've learnt some other communication styles or techniques, possibly because you've been going through this process, you can actually apply them in those other aspects of life. I don't think compersion as an idea should be just sequestered to our community.
I use it.
Not at all. Yeah,
when I'm teaching. Yeah. I don't use that word, but I use it when when I'm dealing with someone or kids. I'll go, okay, talk to me about how you're feeling. It's okay to feel like that, but and it's just this whole thing of we are also taught to grab something and own it and not share it and don't. I think it's different in different cultures and different places and all the rest of it. Where we live in Australia, we're great at hanging out, being careful, being carers of each other and supporting each other. But at the same time, we very much have it's mine. Go away, mine, my patch of land, my car, my this, my that, and so kids have a lot of that going on. Yeah, it's mine, or we're doing this, you can't engage in it, I'm not surprised we still struggle as adults. There are things,
Totally.
that again, that's not, we teach it in manners. Same as the cake theory you were saying. You see a baby eating a cake, you don't go, oh my God, that's not okay. You just go, gosh, look at how much they're loving that. They're just making me beam.
Yeah, if you picture like a 1-year-old, eating a birthday cake and smashing it everywhere, the joy.
And you don't stop them. But by the time they're 7 or 8, if they pick up that cake and they start eating it like that,
then they're not
think
sharing,
about all the constraints the adults and other people around them will put on them. You're not sharing it. You're being greedy. You're wasting it. You're indulging in it. You're being a pig. Selfish, they're selfish. There's all that, so we have. I think we have a skewed kind of understanding or learning of what sharing is and ownership is and things like that as well. Monogamy only battens that down even further. It's the ultimate. This is mine, and you can't play with it. So I find it everywhere. Like undoing those ideas
of knots
with compulsive ideas, giving them another alternative. The other option is it's. I see it everywhere. I'm constantly pursuing sharing it to use the share word again.
Totally. Well, I won't speak for everybody, but I personally find it easier to share my partners than my cake. That's just because
or your food in general.
Or my food in general.
Food's precious. I get that.
But yeah. She's just my wife. That's some cake.
That's my tiramisu, yeah.
I love it. I was curious. I mean, I have tons of questions, but I think maybe it would be really awesome to sort of talk about the sort of the structure of your relationship and sort of the ecosystem in terms of you keep referring to it as a lifestyle. And I think in sort of our world, we typically hear that more in swinging versus polyamory is not often referred to quite as a lifestyle.
No,
And for us, we don't feel you have to fit in either box. You can just be yourself. But I'm curious, what does it look like in terms of how other people relate?
Labels are a two-edged sword, aren't they? They give you a sense of identity, but they also alienate you from everything else
Yes.
that's not that at the same time. And we've struggled with that.
We're definitely not your classic swingers. In Australia, we have a term here called dogging.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard of it.
Well, I've heard of it, but maybe for anyone who hasn't, feel free to give us your rendition.
So dogging is basically when you want to have an anonymous or multiple anonymous sexual experiences. You take yourself to a particular car park or a park itself that is known for, and you wait in your car forever, or whatever. Those sort of anonymous engagements just for the pure rush of naughtiness and sex, they're not really, doesn't really do it for us. And that's okay. I totally kudos to those of you who do it. It's very brave, very cool. But it's not my thing. It's not something we're into. So again, we definitely aren't your classic swingers who are continually heading to every party and every private party we can. And we don't go who's there because all we want to do is this.
Well, we don't do things like we're not really into the straight swap for straight swap.
Oh, it just makes me die. I hate it.
Feels like it feels very. I guess what we're probably trying to get around is that we're not really interested in transactional experience.
It's very transactional.
Yeah.
And then you catch each other looking. Oh, right, they're in this position, right? We swap, and I'm just like, this couldn't get less
arousing.
Honestly, this is, and oh my god. Anyway, that's
I think that's probably why we say we kind of flirted around the edges with it, because our experiences before
we have to try to find out.
Well, they were also our previous experiences were with friends and groups of people and comfortable social situations and relaxed and sharing good company and an afternoon of great conversation and a few
drinks. I like
drinks
it to unfold, not to be put in front of me like, so what's your bucket list? What are we going to do? Like, I can't handle the bucket list. I can't handle the, right, let's go to room and we'll do this and they'll do that and then we'll come back out and then I'll run to the next room. And like, I get all of that. I really do, but that's not, it's exhausting.
We would like to, and as much as we'd like to, and as much as we can, we play together. But even then, it's not in this sort of conventional swap scenario. It's just that we like hanging out with each other. We like playing together. We like hanging out with each other. We don't want to feel like, right, tag, you're in, right, subs out, you're in, next guy, or your turn to go out, all that sort of thing. And it's not even.
It starts to feel like marbles sometimes at parties. You know how you would trade marbles when you were younger? I just start going, this is gross. Like, I'm not a marble. I'm a human being. I have things I might like too.
In that sense too, I think
tends to kill our buzz, those sort of setups. So we like to let things unfold. We have lots of mutual play friends, but we also have our own private, our own lives.
We might have a couple of friends and we all play together, but it's quite obvious that Nikki and this other person have a stronger connection, or it's not like I'm not part of the equation or anything like that. But it's just allowing those ebbs and flows of relationships.
Yeah. So there can be imbalances.
Yeah.
And I think we both have talked a lot about it. And although we've had various, I guess you could say, relationships with people throughout this, after all of that had settled down a bit, we went, oh God, I am maybe only coping with enmeshing with one person at a time at the moment. there's having relationships and there's but there's that real enmeshment of deep relationship is we both kind of went, I just don't think at this point in time, we've learned never say never, because that's just, yeah. But at this point in time, we both went, oh, look, when and if it ever comes up, we will talk about it, but it's just not something we're looking for.
Yeah.
Because, we also have kids. We also work. We have kids with special needs as well.
Parents that we're looking after. I mean, it's, I guess that.
And then through another deep, intimate, and the time that you have to give someone when you choose to do that. And it's not even about jealousy. It's just, I just can't be. I am so thin and spread already.
Yeah.
I don't know how to give time to myself. So throwing in an extra, and then bring them into the whole dynamic and all that. Oh no, I just went, and it's not even the fear of it. It's just that realization that I'm up to here and putting something else that could actually really damage our dynamic as a family, as a couple, as even just personally.
I was just going to say, even as yourself, by continually overextending yourself beyond your capacity. That's not sustainable.
But we kind of felt like that was what we had to do. We had to look for that. We had to find these connections, and actually it just got really overwhelming sometimes. And probably because we were trying to follow a textbook of some sort.
Oh yeah, when you start
when you don't know what you're doing.
When you don't know what you're doing, you start out. You read up on it and you hear all the terms, and while you're finding your own way, you mimic what other people are doing.
We try it on, I like that dress. I'll see what it's like.
What that's like. Does that work for me? No, it doesn't. Okay, but I like the hem of the dress. I just don't like the print, or that kind of, to go with the analogy.
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense.
Well, and I think to play on that analogy, right? What we're told is we should all wear the same dress.
Yeah,
and it should.
I like that.
And it should fit me the same way it fits Emma, the same way it fits you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's just
would be perfect, wouldn't it?
It's never going to fit us all the same.
Yeah.
And it completely undermines.
So true.
It actually completely undermines those essential first principles of your own identity and your own personhood, and being allowed to have that and be happy with no shame. So to then go and feel that I appreciate that people feel connection when they're part of a movement or a group or an identity. But I think there's the two-edged sword of having a label, is that it gives you a sense of identity, but it also alienates you more from everyone who isn't that label, and that's where we kind of go, actually, I don't think we need to go that far down. We just want to cool, be chill and be friendly with everyone, and it's just allowing that component, that aspect, that part of your life to just feel naturally integrated with other parts of your life as well. So it's more complete rather than just switching on, switching off. I'm here, I'm there, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I'm curious how. I mean, I guess you're just talking about integrating into your life too. And so how open are you with people in your life about your exploration? And I know you're doing a play as well about this, so I would guess that you're a little more open, but I want to ask anyway.
Look, we have maybe 2 or 3 friends that we told that are vanillas from previous times. One of them, well, that was a very long discussion that night that went for most of the night. And I remember him being really
curious.
Not that night.
Oh, no,
he's been curious since.
He's been curious since.
On the very first night, he was. He was hurt.
Yeah.
He was emotionally hurt because we're us.
Yeah, it's almost like he felt a little bit of betrayal because
he felt like
knew us as
our
us.
Relationship just redefined it, and it rocked his world. And he wanted understanding. He wanted to get to the bottom of it, and so there was this. He spent most of the night probing, and not just probing, but prosecuting. And I found myself
Cross-examining.
sitting there that night. And look, I'm a woman, so I get a lot more potential than men than Mick does. So yeah, at that point in time, I was probably the the instigator and the naughty one running off doing anything and everything. And yeah, I think it was he really prosecuted me that night. And I remember coming back from that having to work through some stuff in myself. It's all the same things it's all those things that make you question whether you are okay, because their belief is so strong. And that's okay. We got through that. He actually ended up coming to see the play, and we're hanging out sometime next week.
Yep. We have told other vanillas who I don't know.
We've
they
never
just
heard from again.
They kind
basically.
of get amnesia next time you see them. Oh, I don't remember that conversation.
We got a friend of ours to read the play for us. They are a playwright, so we took a deep breath and said, "Please, just have a look," and trying to be non-judgmental. Look at it as a piece in itself. She gave it back with feedback, and we have never seen her again.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, the same token, people ask us. Because we have kids who are not young, but they're not older kids either. But I think we've kind of incorporated the idea it's private, but it's not secret, right?
Yeah.
So this is our private life, and this is our private thing, and we're the only people who have to answer to each other. We don't have to answer to anyone else, and that's private. But it's not secret. It's not like we're the Illuminati or anything like that.
If you ask us, we will tell you, but do you really want to know?
Yeah, and if you find us and we've got an online presence, obviously, and we've done what we can to sort of cover our tracks, but it's the internet. If you want to find us, you'll find us. But our argument is always, well, if you found us, you did a heck of a lot of work to figure that out. And so the onus is back on you. Why did you do that? Why we're not trying to stick it in your face. We're just trying to mind our own business. What is it with you that you had to do all of that work to sort of expose?
To prove that we're doing something that we both already know we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think that kind of...
And I do know there's a few legal cases going on at the moment where people have actively tried to destroy people's reputations and ethically destroy them, basically destroy them.
Yeah.
And I do understand that, and I think I understand where that comes from as well. And I think you can be afraid of the bullies all you like, and that will probably get you nowhere. We strongly believe this is not wrong. It is not taboo. This is between us. It has nothing to do with the rest of the world unless we invite them into it.
And if you're going to force your presence into our space, then that's on you.
It is interesting. Yeah, it is really interesting, though. I mean, I don't know if you both get this as well. I mean, I've always been very liberated in general, but if I'm in a particularly good mood and I'm feeling particularly milfy that day or whatever, it's like I feel like I have a big sign, like I can stand on the street and someone comes and talks to me about something to do with sex, and I'm like, hey,
well, you can go see your doctor.
Or my doctor, walking to my doctor's, and it's like, he's just got to have a million questions, and he's got to do you mind if I touch it, because we had to come out to him as well, and it's. I do notice that it's the freedom. It's a woman walking down the street feeling great. It's a guy walking down the street not looking depressed. I don't know, but it's something about it kind of.
There's a sense of I think it ties into what we were saying earlier. It starts to become more of just who you are. It's not. Yeah, it's not a mask or a costume. I mean, maybe you do put a mask or a costume on that weekend. I don't know, but that's a different thing. But it's like it's just an extra part of who I am. I mean, I'm an actor, I'm a writer, I'm a director, I'm an anthropologist, I'm a swinger, I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm a son. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just And so when you sort of, well, that's what we've been trying anyways, to just sort of embrace it as our identity.
Over your own body as well. Having that ownership over your own body is extremely attractive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not apologising for not wearing a bra. I smile whenever I walk through the supermarket. Like, the women hate me. Do you know what I mean? And it's not because I'm a bloody supermodel or anything. It's an energy and a confidence that there's a resentment all around them, you know.
Because they're all searching for that.
Yeah,
a lot of them,
and they're angry that you've got it, and you know
you're confident enough to wear it that way, and so
and the more that happens, the more I actually just want to grab them and go, "You can do it too!" Like, stop! Let me take you and show you. You know, like
I did have a an exchange with I play amateur sport. I did have an exchange with a couple of guys at the club once who were like, I don't know, I don't think they really knew. They just suspected, and they were digging around, you know, throwing barbs around the corner just to try and get a rise out of me. And I just said, mate, you know what, I could sit here and talk with you fuckers for a couple of hours, or I could go home and fuck for a couple of hours. What do you think I'm going to do? You know, really, what do you think I'm going to do? What's more fun? I can sit here and cop shit from you guys all night, or I can go and do this. Like, see you later. They kind of just stop at that point and go, oh, good point, I suppose. Yeah, fair enough. You know, like.
And then the classic lucky bastard.
Yeah.
But I think what you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say I think everybody really does want to experience this sort of level of comfort, safety, confidence, joy, humor in their own bodies, and share that with other people. But we've been very, very much told that is not okay.
Yeah.
And so it might be hard. You might get the nasty glances in the supermarket from women who are struggling under the patriarchy, let's say. You know. But at the same time, how will we make change if no one changes? If we just keep this cycle going, we're never going to be better people.
Yeah, to have that empathy for them, that, you know, right, it's the person who makes some snooty remark about you. We had this happen. This was about a decade ago now. We were at a party, one of our first parties when we moved back to our hometown, and we kind of showed up there as us, and we got this really snarky comment made to Emma about, like, oh, look at these little hot things. It must be spring break here or something. And like shitting on us. And it was like, we didn't come over here shitting on you. And we immediately, somebody's like making snarky comments. And so your supermarket, you know, situation, right. And saying that person, like having the empathy for that person to say they're obviously struggling. They probably don't want to be wearing their bra. They want to be walking around feeling the freedom that you feel. And it's not that they don't want you to have it. They just haven't discovered compersion yet.
They haven't been allowed to have it. They resent you having something they
very
can't
deep
have.
personal feelings about it. And they might not even understand why or what that is.
Yeah. They may not even be in a place, like you said, to understand why.
Exactly. And really,
do not let it beat you down.
No.
Do not let it beat you down.
No, there's sometimes it can be a fine line between empathy and pity for some of those people, isn't it? It's like, man, you know, I'm sorry your life is so bitter. I'm sorry you are so angry and tight and repressed inside you. I really am.
And scared.
But that's your journey. That's not my journey.
Yeah.
Thing is, we don't judge other people for their journey, but we get judged for ours. Not personally necessarily. I think the worst thing I've ever had online is someone basically saying you should be ashamed of yourself. And I went, wow, they're pretty good tits actually, man. I think though that we are also brought up in a culture that's very much about receiving receiving support, receiving accolades, receiving confirmation of ourselves through outside sources as well. And if that's something that you are struggling with, and you go into the lifestyle, and you go into this free, open. Like, you don't even have to be monogamous at all, or ethically non-monogamous. You can be a single, single. But you go into this place where you have access and you have ownership over yourself and all those other beautiful things. I think that you also have to recognize that you're doing it for yourself, just for you. That what you're doing is not for receiving some confirmation from anyone. It's not about notches on the belt, grabbing the sexiest person in the room, saying we scored that, or yeah. And I think if you're struggling with any of those things, you know what this will teach you, that they're not the priority, that they're not important. And it really is quite amazing. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say a bad word about another person's body, ever, at any event. Only positive things. One of the most amazing things I saw that completely melted my mind one night, very early on, first couple of club visits, was this absolutely stunning, very hot guy. Beautiful, everywhere. Wow. And I walked past one of the rooms, and he was someone was just shutting the door. And it was the husband of the woman on the bed. And the woman on the bed was extremely morbidly obese. And my brain went, what? What? Because back then I was still very much in my fantasy glamour mode, right? So I remember going, what? I don't understand what is going on in that room. And what I discovered was that her husband basically walked up to this guy and said, this woman doesn't believe in herself. She is miserable and sad, and she doesn't believe how beautiful she is, and she never thinks she'll ever get anyone like you. Never in a million years would a guy like you touch her. And the guy turned around and went, show me where she is. I want to gift her. It's not about all of the beauty and the glamour and the perfection and confirmation. That confirmation isn't just related to beauty and glamour and all of those things. Confirmation is about human beings, and
being seen for who you are. It's being allowed to be
who you are, not judged for that, and in fact
embrace
see you more. I see the human in you, and I'd like to give. I'm like, round about then, my brain went, wow, okay, step up.
Yeah.
Well, celebrated for who you are. Sorry, I didn't.
Celebrate for who you are, and just like, we're all beautiful people. Like, humans are beautiful, no matter what you look like. But
everyone's deserving of pleasure and happiness. There's no one who's less deserving of it than anyone else. Just getting back to that. That was one of the game changers for us, was realizing that there were no.
He didn't even blink. He was just like, show me where she is. Hi.
Well, and I think that's something that I know we've had our minds opened many times, or not even open, just it's sort of a reaffirmation of, the hottest person in the room. First of all, that's a very subjective thing, right? If we all walked into a room and you asked each one of us to point out the hottest person in the room, we're probably all going to point to a different person.
Yeah.
And in fact, probably at least one of us would say, well, I can't decide that until I talk to somebody. Right. And
you always know who thinks they're the hottest in the room. That's easy to find.
Yeah.
Right. But there's what we've learned, right, is, because, right, to your point, in those early days, it's the glitz and the glam, and you're like, oh, I want to who's the hottest person here? And what we've learned over the years is the hottest people are really like the funnest people. They aren't the most, the people that you would necessarily see on a magazine cover. They're the people who you connect with, who you have a great chemistry with, and you can have a great conversation with, and you just have a really good vibe together. And physical attraction, it's not that it's necessarily completely obsolete or irrelevant, but it's not the holy grail. It's not the guiding light for it.
No, definitely not. And
No,
I think we've all known people who we could all point to people in our lives who have thought they were that person, and they've turned out to be a asshole. Like just a nasty person. And it's like, man, I don't care how good your hair is, you're not a nice person. And full stop. That's it. I just don't want to have anything to do with you.
Well, plus, if we're doing it right, you're going to mess your hair up anyway. So your hair's irrelevant.
yeah.
Put it in the bun.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I remember in the early days, I would curl my hair and do all this amazing stuff, and then very quickly discovered that I just always look like a hot wet mess at the end of it, and there's absolutely no point in doing any of that.
Well, there is. It's nice to go from point A to point B. It's nice to
sliding scale.
It's like with nice crisp cheeks until you can mess them up.
And I'm one of those kids that's got to go on everything. I've got to touch everything. I've got to get in the spa. I want to try the bar. Oh look, there's a swing. Press the button. So by the end of the night, I'm like, I've been everywhere.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I know that we could talk to both of you all night.
all day
and night, both of them. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about your play and where people can find it and the motivation behind it, all of those things.
Sure. We like we say, we're theatre makers. That's our career. We've been doing that each for over 35 years each. So it's not like we sort of went, I think we'd like to do a play. Like this is our job. And we just kind of
people find us for specialist work all the time. Why aren't we working for ourselves?
Yeah. There was a career influence to happen to this in the dodgy business dealings with an unscrupulous business partner left us in a bit of a lurch, and we were kind of like, and there was a part of that went, well, we do this for a living. We do it for everyone else all the time.
You seem to have a lot of spare time lately.
Yeah, I've got a bit of time up my sleeve. So why don't we just do it for ourselves? The hardest part about that is it's easy to dissociate from the job when you're working for someone else. When you're working for yourself, that's a little more difficult. So and especially the other thing about it is that when you work in the theatre, so much of the creative process is a filtering process from the script writing, the rehearsal, the director, the producer, all the way through. And so by the time you get on stage, there's very little of kind of you left in the piece that you've been doing. And this was a piece that is probably the closest and most raw in terms of what we're putting on stage and its immediacy to who we are as people that we've ever done. But that's different. But
the story itself is actually about our journey into the lifestyle. So I say we had those little tete-a-tetes with vanillas in the spa sort of deal. I wouldn't even call them first experiments. Like that was just drunken, let me tickle you. But after that, actually choosing to go into it and to make connections and book in dates and do all those sorts of things is what we wrote about. Especially given that once we had made that decision, turned the corner, spoken about it in depth, pulled apart 20 years of marriage, pulled apart a lifetime of sexual identification. We would often end up sitting on the balcony after a play date or whatever, and we'd just be talking. Highs, lows, how you feeling, Some of those events were horrible, to be honest. There was our very first couple. Not only was it a straight swap, they had been in the lifestyle for many, 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 many years. And so we kind of went, oh, thank God, we can relax. We also hadn't learned to use our voice. We hadn't learned properly how to consent,
How to
and
keep
give
communicating
consent,
with each
how to
other.
and all sorts of things went pear-shaped. He didn't wear a condom, didn't even ask. Before I even knew it, it was in, and all I could do was put my hands on his chest and say, you can't do this. No, I just said you can't come in, because I didn't have a voice and a self-belief yet. I was learning. And okay, it doesn't sound very dramatic anymore, actually, but at the time it was really, it threw me. I was ill from it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was horrible. I don't know, the whole thing was horrible.
For what it's worth, it still sounds dramatic to me, because that's traumatic. That is that's fucked up. Yeah.
But in the middle of this night, we also had gone to dinner and made another rookie mistake of eating hot food. So he had indigestion the whole time as well, but didn't tell me any of that. It was because we didn't have that communication thing, and
it was just those growing pains.
We thought we had to be kind of better than what we were as well.
Yeah.
So all of those growing pains and all of those joys went swimmingly. And how did swimmingly look? And the other thing that we realized is that when we were going through it, we didn't have any litmus test. We didn't have anyone to talk. I tried to get into communities.
Yeah.
People often just went, oh, we don't, it just ghosted you. You're not part of us. Or you just
get sort of pat responses of people who would just sort of go, oh, well, you just do this. Oh, well, you just do that. Oh, well, you just do this. And it's like,
yeah.
So as much as we read and we listened to podcasts and read and looked at therapists and this and that, but again, by our nature, we like to do a lot of research and we just consume research. So we did a lot of that.
We did all that. We talked about it. We had all these great stories.
But we just found that there was it's like the cracks in the wall where the things aren't spoken about. Like
you don't know what it's going to look like.
You don't know what it's going to feel like,
sound like.
And so we wanted to do a piece that, I guess, if we were coming out into the lifestyle now, we would go and see this as a way of getting a bit more of a visceral feeling of what it's like. I mean, it's all academic until you're in the room. And getting in the room when you don't have the skill set is just as intimidating. So we wanted to create a piece that just sort of bridged that a little bit, just gave that space to go. So we present it as it's a parlour play. So it's not like on stage with a full musical and, set pieces and all the rest of it. It's a parlour play. So it's literally done in lounge rooms and small intimate spaces with no more than 20 people. And we say it's a meet and greet event. So that comes with the implication that you're there to meet and greet, but it's non-play and there's no obligation from anyone.
There's no pressure to go and grab a room upstairs afterwards or anything.
And then you are
some
welcome.
People that, especially some of the newbies that have come. I remember one night she said, at the end, she goes, "Oh my God, you're some of the nicest people I've ever met." And I said, "Why? What were you expecting?" And she said, "I drank half a bottle of white wine in the car. Like I sculled it before I walked in here because my hands were shaking. I was terrified."
So it gives them that real...
So there's, and then you have
we've had people that have been in it for 20 years
that want to introduce someone, or it's beautiful.
Or we've had people that have been in it for 20 years and finally feel like
they can share it.
They're allowed to embrace their identity. Someone's up on stage saying, "This is who I am, and I own that identity," and that gives them permission after 20 odd years in the lifestyle to go, "Yeah, actually, that's who I am." And so we ostensibly set it up as a meet and greet. You met at the door by us. We play Mr. and Mrs. SR, so it's kind of like a Dame Edna, so step to the left of who we are.
Yeah,
and that's our brand online. Romantics.
So you met by us, and we sit down, we have a drink, we get to know you, and then we just start
I have to really be careful that I don't get too relaxed there and forget to set up some of the people that I'm meant to set up for the show.
We have audience interaction, so we invite members up out of the audience to play certain roles, or we go into the audience and we might give someone a foot massage, or just sort of things that sort of, again, bridge that kind of distinction.
Also, there's only two of us. Like, we cannot possibly play a threesome with two of us. It's just not. I mean, we can try. Well, it's much more fun to get an audience member up.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a very interactive experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to make it. I mean, we worked in theatre education for too many years to even bother thinking about it. So we really borrowed a lot of what we learned there in terms of how to get an audience involved, how to make them feel like, so you're allowed to talk to us. You don't have to sit there on your hands and wait until the end and applaud. You're allowed to talk back to us. You're allowed to engage. You're allowed to say, no, I don't want you to touch me, and we'll leave you alone.
So we give them safe hand signals. So I'm going to approach you at some point. You know I am. I can't. I'm going to come up at some point. And if you're not in the mood for any frivolity with me at that point in time, then we just tell them to put up their hand, just to gently put up their hand. It's fine, I'll see it, and I'll beeline someone else, you know.
And in that way, we also wanted to use it as an opportunity to model some of this behaviour, some of this consent behaviour.
You're not obliged to be at our disposal.
Yeah. To give you the opportunity to model using your voice. And it might be, I imagine for a lot of people, I know for me, often it's actually easier to say no than it is to say yes. Yes is actually the harder one to answer. So here's a space where you can say yes, and it's okay. And you can say no, and that's okay too. So, and we just take people through an hour of us really storytelling some of these different experiences that we've told you about, and some
the
others
good, bad, and the ugly.
And the fun.
And the funny.
I love it.
Yeah.
So what is the name, and where we'll have links in the show notes so people can find it, but I'm assuming mostly in Australia at this point.
Yep, we are.
Yeah.
We've just come out of a couple of shows in Adelaide, and we've got another one in Adelaide coming up in end of July, and we're performing in Melbourne in August. The show's called Compersion.
Okay.
As simple as that. And we're looking to tour, have show, will travel. It literally fits into a suitcase, and so we've designed it such that we can move around. We're approaching a lot of venues at the moment, but there's also other opportunities as well.
No one's ever done anything like this. We have looked very far and wide. No, I'm absolutely certain this is the first of its kind, and so it is quite difficult to sell because it's you've got two playwrights with 30 years experience and directors and actors, who are very good at what they do, who are also doing live sex acts together and with members of audience. What do you charge? When you consider a lap dance in a club, what that costs and what you don't get for it. And then if you consider, what you pay for a regular night at the theatre with two very qualified actors, then you've got to consider, and then trying to explain to people what it looks like and how it works. And, it's a play. And they're like, oh, right. So it's an educational session. And I'm like, no. It's a play.
It's a play. How much set and lighting do you have? No, we don't have anything. We just need a table and a chair. And
we just need people.
Storytelling.
I love it.
Essentially. And then at the end of the night, after about an hour, we then also wrap it up with a bit of a soiree, a bit of a sort of casual meet and greet with us afterwards. And that can go lots of different ways. Sometimes it goes into a really deep Q&A session, and we all sort of get really pull it all out. And other times, I think the last show we did, I think we all just hung around and drank for about 3 hours and just chatted to each other. It was just awesome. We just hung around and chatted.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful watching people come in, and quite, often when they're newbies as well, they're quite tight when they come in, And then by the end, they're all like legs on each other, getting lovely, love. By then everyone's totally relaxed, and the joy of being in the room is something beautiful for them. The other thing we got out of it that we never expected was it's been described to us that it feels like a what did they describe it as? The interactive, like they were saying, you actually get to be in the room and touch and experience it.
Virtual reality.
That's it, virtual reality.
Virtual reality experience of being in a play session without committing to it.
Yeah, because a lot of people have come here and said, like, I'm just someone who needs to know what it's going to be like. I need to know. I need to see it. I need to, and so, I didn't expect that to be the case. And I totally get how that helps people. I'm like, I'm your volunteer. I'm up for it. We can do that.
we don't pretend that we have the answer, but we did call the show Compersion because we wanted to
get the word out
and raise awareness of the idea and the principles behind that. And we again, these are the stories of maybe our first 6 to 12 months in the lifestyle officially. So it's not, by the time you get to the end of it, it's not like a Disney story where it's all wrapped up with a nice cathartic ending and we all live happily ever after. We're human beings. We go through other stuff.
And we just made another 20 friends tonight.
Yeah.
So
right?
now we're on something new, you know?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love it. Well, thank you both for first of all coming on and sharing your story with us, and for doing the work to create a play too. I know you said it wasn't necessarily an educational tool, but I think in many ways it is. It's very informative and I love
fun
that.
and a play
and sexy
and all of all
I
of
love it. So thank you both for doing all that work and for coming on and sharing and for being here tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Of course.
And if anyone listening wants to have the play come to you, find a venue and connect each other.
all of our Australian listeners.
Easy as that.
Get into your local venue and get them to get in touch with us. And
that's right.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I love it. Well, thank you both and have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Have a great night.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Nikki and Michael, for the wonderful conversation and for everything that you shared and for the amazing work that you're doing with your play and just in general. We're so grateful for you. And if anyone's listening wants to go check out more information about Nikki and Michael, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, click on the podcast tab, and under the show notes there, you'll find links to all their work.
Yes. And I think one of the things that I love about their play is it's going to be entertaining. It sounds like a freaking riot, and I would love to be able to go.
I know.
But I think it's also amazing how they weave in the educational elements around consent and compersion and all of the different things that they've learned and that I know we've learned over the years.
Yes.
So please check it out.
A quick reminder before we let you go that we are hosting a workshop tonight. That's
virtual
workshop, August 2nd, 2023, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. This will be challenging non-monogamy myths, or otherwise known as Is There a Right Way to Do Non-Monogamy? We'll be walking through a number of myths around non-monogamy, and you will get an opportunity to meet and mingle with the other fellow attendees.
So you're going to want to check that out. Links to sign up are in the podcast player show notes where you were just at, looking at all of Nikki and Michael's stuff. And you'll also be able to find this on the Bloom Community app if you have that app downloaded as well. We're highlighted in there.
And with that, next week, episode 300.
Boom shakalaka.
May or may not have new music.
May or may not, but we definitely do have an incredible interview with some returning guests. Thrice returning.
I would say an epic part 3.
Part 3, our first part 3er.
Yes, I believe it is too. So Chloe and Drew came on the podcast back in episode 89 was their first appearance. Then episode 156.
And then we haven't seen him for like 150 episodes.
And then episode 300. So we have such a wonderful conversation with the two of them. So you're going to definitely want to come back and listen in a week.
And I would say say, as we always do, you don't have to have listened to the previous episodes for this to be, especially for this one, to be a powerful conversation for you. But
it's helpful.
It will be really extra powerful.
Yes.
How about that? If you go back and listen, because their journey from episode 89 until episode 300 is just, I'm blown away.
Yeah, I was like, we don't have words.
No words. Well, we have lots of words next week. We have over an hour's worth of words, so we hope to see you then.
A quick reminder, those episodes are episode 89 and 156.
And until then, we hope you have a fantastic week. We hope to see you tonight at the workshop. And that's all I've got.
Yep. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.